Hello, everyone. Mia and Aaron seemed to have the perfect life. Aaron was the kind of husband everyone admired, diligent, kind, and completely devoted to his wife. Together, they were a power couple, a duo that complemented each other in every way. From lazy weekend brunches to quiet movie nights, Aaron cherished Mia and made sure everyone around them knew it. They had been married for 5 years. Yet Aaron still looked at Mia with the same sparkle in his eyes as he had on their wedding day. He believed he knew her inside and out, convinced they were soulmates in every sense of the word. But as the weeks passed, subtle changes started to surface, small things that Aaron couldn't ignore. Mia, who used to eagerly share every detail of her day, became more reserved. She laughed less, avoided Aaron's gaze at times, and often seemed distracted. Even when they were alone together, Aaron dismissed these changes as stress from her demanding new job, a high-powered marketing position that required long hours and frequent travel. Still, despite his attempts to reassure himself, a quiet unease began to settle in his chest, a nagging feeling he couldn't quite shake. The first warning sign appeared on a Friday night. Mia had plans for a girls' night out with her friends. Aaron encouraged her to go, wanting her to unwind and have fun. But as the evening stretched on and her messages became fewer and shorter, an uncomfortable, gnawing feeling began to creep into his gut. When Mia finally stumbled home late that night, she smelled faintly of cologne and looked a little too disheveled for an evening spent with her girlfriends. Aaron's suspicions grew, but he pushed them aside. He didn't want to be that husband, the one who questioned his wife's every move. After all, Mia had never given him a reason to doubt her until now. The second warning sign came 2 weeks later. Aaron was helping Mia with the laundry when her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. Last night was unforgettable. When can we do it again? Aaron's heart sank. His hands trembled as he carefully set down the laundry. Taking a deep breath to steady himself, he turned to Mia. She must have noticed something in his expression, because she immediately grabbed her phone, swiping away the message in an instant. "Oh, it's just work stuff," she said hastily, her smile faltering for a brief moment before she forced it back. Just a joke from a client." Aaron managed a weak smile, but the seed of doubt had already been planted, spreading like a shadow over his thoughts. He couldn't forget those words. They echoed in his mind, eating away at him long after the moment had passed. In the days that followed, Aaron found himself withdrawing. He began to observe Mia more closely, paying attention to every little behavior. Things he had once found endearing now seemed like pieces of a puzzle he couldn't solve. The confirmation of his worst fears came on a rainy Saturday night. Mia said she'd be working late again. Aaron kissed her goodbye and watched her drive away, but the suffocating weight of suspicion in his chest refused to let him rest. Acting on impulse, Aaron got into his car, his heart pounding, and decided to follow her. He kept a safe distance, turning off his headlights to stay unnoticed. His palms felt clammy against the steering wheel as he tailed her across town. Eventually, Mia pulled into the parking lot of a small, dimly lit bar on the far side of the city. Aaron parked a short distance away, his stomach churning as he watched her step out of the car. Waiting by the entrance was a tall, dark-haired man with a broad, confident smile. Mia laughed as she approached him, her joy unmistakable as she wrapped her arms around him in a warm embrace. Aaron's heart shattered. The sight felt like a dagger twisting in his chest, leaving him breathless with pain and disbelief. The thought of confronting her then and there crossed his mind, but instead, he turned the car around and drove home. The image of Mia in another man's arms was burned into his memory, replaying on an endless loop. His vision blurred as anger and betrayal wrestled for control within him. When Aaron stumbled into their empty home, he was overwhelmed by a whirlwind of emotions, but was ultimately consumed by a numbing sense of loss. He poured himself a drink, then another, each sip dulling the pain just enough to let him think clearly. In this haze, Aaron came to a painful realization. There was no salvaging this marriage. The woman he had loved so deeply was gone, replaced by someone he no longer recognized. But instead of lashing out, Aaron decided to take a different approach, one that would make Mia truly feel the weight of her betrayal. Over the next week, Aaron diligently orchestrated his exit. He discreetly withdrew funds from their shared accounts, transferring them into a new, private account that Mia couldn't access. Each day, he packed small portions of his belongings, ensuring his preparations went unnoticed until the final moment. He coordinated with his boss to transition to remote work temporarily, avoiding suspicion. By the time Mia realized something was amiss, it would be far too late. The night before his departure, Aaron reserved a suite at a nearby hotel. He anticipated Mia spending the evening with her mysterious lover, which aligned perfectly with his carefully crafted timeline. That night, while the house lay in eerie silence, Aaron executed the last steps of his plan. As he moved from room to room for the final time, he packed the last of his essentials. On the kitchen counter, he left a single note, a concise and resolute farewell. "I know everything." There were no explanations, no apologies. Just 3 words imbued with the weight of his pain and betrayal. After one final sweep of the house, Aaron closed the door behind him. The once warm and vibrant home, filled with love and laughter, now felt like an empty, hollow structure mirroring the void within him. Driving away without a backward glance, Aaron felt a burdensome weight lifting from his shoulders. A new chapter awaited, one devoid of deceit, betrayal, and the woman who had shattered his heart. At the hotel, Aaron sat by the window, a glass of whiskey in his hand. The amber liquid gleamed softly under the lamp's glow as he watched the clock tick forward. His mind swirled with mixed emotions, grief, rage, and an unfamiliar sense of serenity. He imagined Mia walking into the empty house, her expression shifting from confusion to dread as she discovered the note. He could almost see her frantic search, calling out his name, only to be met with a resounding silence. Aaron hoped she would experience even a sliver of the anguish she had caused him. At dawn, Mia stumbled into the house, the faint scent of another man's cologne still clinging to her clothes. Expecting to find Aaron asleep, she called his name. Instead, a stifling silence greeted her. Uneasy, she switched on the lights and spotted the note on the counter. Her pulse quickened as her eyes scanned the words, "I know everything." Panic overtook her. She dashed through the house, flicking on lights, flinging open closet doors and yanking open drawers. The absence of Aaron's belongings, his clothes, his books, even their wedding photos, hit her like a crushing wave. It was as though he had meticulously erased himself from her life. Desperation took hold as Mia grabbed her phone and dialed Aaron's number. Each call went directly to voicemail. Her trembling voice left message after message, pleading for him to return, to talk, to explain, but Aaron remained silent. By then, he was long gone. In the ensuing weeks, Mia's desperation deepened. She reached out to Aaron's friends and family, only to be met with curt responses or cold silence. A visit to his workplace revealed that he had transitioned to a remote position. Every attempt to contact him, calls, texts, emails, went unanswered, leaving her with nothing but the echo of her guilt and regret. Meanwhile, her once exciting affair with the other man quickly unraveled. The thrill that had once captivated her evaporated under the harsh reality of their relationship. Arguments replaced laughter, and their fleeting romance ended as abruptly as it began. Alone, Mia was left to confront the consequences of her choices. Aaron, on the other hand, began rebuilding his life in a new city. Surrounded by new friends and opportunities, he created a world far removed from the shadows of his failed marriage. Over time, the sting of betrayal softened, replaced by a quiet pride in his resilience. Reflecting on his journey, Aaron harbored no bitterness, only a sense of peace. He had granted Mia the freedom she seemed to crave, and in the end, that very freedom had left her ensnared in isolation and remorse. Aaron's greatest revenge was not in seeking retribution, but in reclaiming his life and moving forward.